Well, this is it. The final review of Offer Mastery Live 2024. This is a day 3 review and a summary of the event itself. So let me just start right out. A bunch of you have commented saying you wish you were there, you had FOMO, missing out. And I was misleading in terms of thinking, I thought it was pretty clear that they were going to do this online next year, and it doesn't necessarily seem that way. So this may very well be the last Offer Mastery Live, period. I'm sure Myron will do other live events, like stage selling or other things that he's an expert on. But as far as Offer Mastery, this might be the last one in this current iteration of how OML has gone. So I apologize for misleading some of you. Don't have FOMO. Let me jump right into one thing that I was wondering myself before getting into the event, which was like, how much of Myron's content, if I'm the kind of person, which I am, that's consumed 1,000 of his videos or more, and watched them multiple times, and watched him on David Chance, and watched him interview with Omar, and watched him on all these other videos and podcasts, how much of the content is net new? And so, Myron, if you're watching this is no shade, but let me explain this answer because it's not straightforward. I would say 75 to 80% of what you're going to hear from Myron is old. It's information you've heard before. It's information you could have found yourself on YouTube if you've watched every one of his videos, right? So it's not necessarily new information. So how can I say that I got a return of my investment into the event, especially when it's not a cheap event? The way that works is the way that the number one, the other speakers, right? So he selects top tier speakers, people you've never even heard of, maybe some people you have heard of, but they will all blow you away. They're all mind blowing in their own right, and they all have crazy stories and all these things, and they stretch your mind. And it's just, honestly, I haven't slept in days. I got in last night at midnight, which is why I'm shooting this the next day. And even though I got in at midnight, I got like 5 hours of sleep because I'm still processing everything I just learned. So the speakers, there's 25% of it that is new. So there are things and nuggets that he's giving you. There are questions he's answering when he does Q&As that are new, that have been pretty eye-opening. But I would say the big piece that was surprising to me is that there's this common thread of how everything is woven together. So the tapestry of OML that's made up of the speakers and Myron's stuff, even though I've heard some of it before, I've heard a lot of it before, the context in which he responds or goes into these concepts that I've heard before, he'll do it after a speaker, right? So he's woven in between his other speakers, and then all of a sudden he'll reference them and say, did you see how they did this? Did you see how they talked about this? That's why this works. And that is really where that value comes to life, right? So as you know, Myron teaches a lot of biblical-based business principles. When you read a Bible verse, you might not get something the first 5 times you read it. And then on the 6th time, you see something you didn't see that was there before. It's the same concept. So there's this context, this contextual value that comes out of being in that environment, where his content itself, even though you've heard some of it before or a lot of it before, it will jump off the pages. It will jump out of the YouTube into this whole other experience where you can kind of see what he's talking about because you just saw an example of someone's life living that thing. So that was one thing I wanted to point out to you guys. Biggest takeaway for me from yesterday, one of the things Myron talked about, which was really cool, and I actually don't really know if I've seen this in a YouTube video from him before, so this would be the 25% of brand new things, was he started talking about the ages, the eras in which we're in, so the information age, the technology age, the agricultural age. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but basically the net is, I guess I am going to spoil it. I'm not going to break down each age, talk about the years, talk about the components. But what was really interesting is that you don't want to be selling in the past. You don't want to be building a business in the past. And so an example of that would be like, you don't want to be in 2024 and starting in a farm, right? Like that was the agricultural age. And not that there's anything wrong with farmers. And there was ways to use technology and there's ways to use automations to have like a modern farm. But the point was you need to, if you want to be really successful in finding your purpose and finding wealth and whatever, you want to make money depending on the age in which you're in. So that was really interesting to me. Of course, he talked about education, the education system, and the age of the machine, the industrial age. Daniel Priestley got back up and Dr. Benjamin Hardy got back up on the last day. So that was surprising to me because I kind of figured they're going to have some D-listers. It's the third day. Like, it's going to close us out. Like, a lot of people probably can't make it, but it was a really strong close. And even the people that I thought, I'm just being honest, would be D-list speakers were actually incredible. And some of you, if you follow Myron, I'm sure you're actually really familiar with those speakers, but I wasn't necessarily. So Daniel Priestley went into some really cool stuff on oversubscribe. He talks about the 5 principles of being oversubscribed. You can Google those and find them from him. But those 5 principles were really cool. One key takeaway from that would be understanding your official capacity, right? So he talked about Rolex and Timex and how, Timex is almost the same clock. It keeps better, the same watch. It keeps better time. It looks almost exactly the same. The only thing that's different is really the serial numbers. And he talks about how can Rolex do so well and sell these $20,000 watches, and they have this wait list, and the wait list is like 6 months of people. And so he talks about this concept of official capacity versus like this official addressable capacity versus demand, supply and demand. It was a really interesting concept. I think it was really helpful for a lot of people in the audience to understand what's the capacity that their business can handle, and actually saying no to people, putting them on a wait list, can create demand. It can be a good thing. And I know a lot of us were apprehensive to that before hearing his talk. So that was cool. We had a couple other really, really incredible speakers. And then Dr. Benjamin Hardy talked again about impossible goals. Like I said in previous videos, if you haven't watched the day 1 review, go watch that, or the day 2 review, you can watch that. But I am in Dr. Benjamin Hardy's rapid transformation class right now. And so not a lot of that was new to me. But again, I love how Dr. Hardy brings his content to life because he talks about what's going on, right? He talks about what his goals are with his book and some of the challenges he's having in his family. And all of a sudden, the same blockers, the things that are hard for us, it starts to come to life because you can see how he's wrestling with ideas. They also had a Q&A, not only yesterday. When I say they, I mean Myron and Dr. Ben. But they had a Q&A today again, or yesterday again, which was Thursday. So that was really helpful. People got a lot of their questions answered. There was a lot of incredible wins. One gentleman in the audience, he texted his team. He said, we're going to 10x our goal. And he was freaking out that they were going to quit. It was like the text bubble was like going, would stop, going, would stop. And his team was on board. So that was really cool to see that. And then the other thing I would say, again, I just want to hammer this in. The caliber of people that Myron attracts are they're a different level. They're a different species. They are a different breed of person. Look at the comments from my first video and the second video and even this video. Like, for every one nasty comment that I get, there's 100 people that are commenting, saying really kind things, supportive things, even though they missed out, right? They could be like nasty to me and be upset, but not only just in YouTube in the virtual world, but also at the event, the level of people that are there, whether I was talking to someone at lunch about diet, nutrition, exercise, or how to build their business, there was people that I kind of have a competing business model with, who were incredibly helpful on helping me understand how they got there, their process, their stumbling blocks, and like they only have, in any other business card exchange at a tech meetup or whatever, they would have no reason to help me, but they went out of their way to help me. So I just want to hammer home, like, whether you're doing any of Myron's challenges or somebody else's challenge, but specifically Myron, he attracts a quality and a caliber of person that to me is unmatched. The people in that room have a level of selflessness, self-awareness, kindness that I just haven't experienced. And so that was really surprising to me, and I just want to highlight that again. The last piece that I want to talk about before I close out is the return on investment. So for me, like I said, I stand by this. Like, there were some things that I felt like were fluff, but far and away, I feel like Myron's goal is to 10x your investment. So I got the PO people ticket. So I got the general admissions ticket for $1,000. I feel like I could 10x that. I could probably 100x that with what I've learned. How can I do that? I would say for me, the shortcuts and the things that I've learned, like, I've gotten clarity on things, and also in Dr. Benjamin Hardy's class and also at Offer Mastery Live 2024, I have gotten clarity on things that would have probably taken me months and months and months and years to get to. How I'm going to go about stuff. It wasn't that Myron told me how to do it. He put me in the environment where I could have an idea on how I would accomplish that thing. And so for me, that was a huge time save. It gives me having hope and light at the end of the tunnel, because I've been on the last couple months have been really, really hard for me. I couldn't even put a price on that because there's days where it's like, man, I don't even have the energy to get out of bed. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. It feels impossible. I feel like Joseph in the pit, if you know what I'm talking about. So that for me was where I got my return on investment. And how I implement that, I'm sure it'll be 100x. So beyond just the time savings. So your return on investment really largely depends on your intention when you go in. Myron kind of closed us with this yesterday, but if when you go to these events, any event, but specifically events Myron puts on, he's going to make you aware of things. If you have this new level of awareness and then you just go home and default to your previous programming, just don't even go. Like, if that's you, if that's how you're going to do it, don't go. Don't waste your money. It's not his fault you didn't get your return. You have to set your intention on, now that I'm aware of this, now, but maybe before you even go, I'm looking for awareness. But once you have it, aware of all these things you can do and ideas and implementation, how is that going to change you? I said this in a previous video. When you go to read a book, how is that going to change your life? Don't think about that at the end. Think about that before you go to read the book. What's the one thing that you can learn from reading that book, reading that chapter, listening to that audiobook that you can take away that's going to transform your life? And so I would say it's the same with this event. Like, you will not get a return on your investment unless you set the intention that you're going to implement your transformation, not just at the 3 days or whatever the event is in the future, but beyond that. And so I'm making these videos largely because of that, right? Like, I started on day one. If you saw how this is rigged up and my audio and the lighting, like, you would be cracking up. So yeah, I mean, it's taking the next best step. And yeah, overall, the event was incredibly helpful for me, incredibly powerful because of the people and the energy in the room, incredibly powerful because spiritually how it enables you, tactically how it enables you. It brought so much light to the end of the tunnel. I feel like I realize I am so much closer to where I want to be despite my circumstances. So I hope that helps somebody out there. I hope that encourages somebody out there, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.